Welcome back, Nerglings. Today we are taking a look at my various Gor that are aligned to the great powers of chaos, namely my Corngore, Plague Monks, Pestigor and Zangor. But before we start, be sure to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss an update. The Beastmen are known as the Children of Chaos, and for good reason. They are the antithesis of everything good and wholesome in the world. Mutated and malformed beyond reason and proudly displaying their corruption unashamedly for the world to see. They are a breed unlike any other. They are shackled to their basest instincts, violence being their most common outlet for their suffering. Whilst they boast a whole plethora of strengths, namely physical and in their very constitution, they are, for all intents and purposes, relatively simple creatures. Gorthor, the legendary beast lord, for instance, is famed for his tactical prowess and strategic acumen. He rose to such infamy due to being an outlier amongst his kin. Far smarter than any normal beastman, he rose to great prominence and was widely known as the Archaon of the Beastmen. Anyway, the Beastmen are an unwholesome bunch, matted fur stuck together with blood, dung and mud. Flies permanently pester them, whilst ticks grow fat on their bulky hides. Note, these are regular beastmen, to mention nothing of the Pestigor or other Gor bound to their gods. As you can see, we are working our way through a mixed collection of Corngore, primarily Citadel 80s and more recent sculpts made from metal. However, there are also a couple kobolds or lizardmen from Ralpatha too. As with my previous video on the Pestigor, you will notice I have mixed miniatures into my units from many backgrounds to add a touch of flavour to the overall look and feel of the army. No two miniatures are the same. As usual, there are the odd pre-slaughter models included too, which are mounted in hollow lit bases to rank up nicely with their brothers in arms. I haven't really gone for a specific armament amongst the Corngore. They are a mixed bag of hand weapon and shield and great weapons. Note, I'm probably not going to be fielding them in conflict anytime soon, so the mismatched weapons don't really matter. I've gone for modest size units of 16 in 4x4 blocks to maximise on any rank bonus if the time ever does come to march to war. Whilst not as durable as a regiment of 20, there would be so many larger and more dangerous troops on the field that I suspect they would get off quite lightly when it comes to any kind of long-range weaponry. Naturally, I would presume the Minotaurs and monsters would be much more appropriate targets. Hell, Gorthor will be roaming about on his chariot. He would be a much tastier morsel for any cannons and volley guns amongst the enemy's ordnance. The Khorngor are beastmen who are sworn devotees of the chaos god Khorn. They bear the favoured colours of the blood god, have skin and fur which is brazen in colour, in some cases almost metallic, and their eyes are milky white with red pupils. Many Corngore are hound-headed with large jaws and fangs that drip with saliva. The most favoured bear horns which take the shape of Khorn's skull rune. The Corngore are extremely tough and carry a substantial amount of armour for beastmen, as well as being more organised and disciplined. Other lesser beastmen among both Gor and Zangor rever and naturally fear the Pestigors blessed by chaos, respecting them greatly. Marvellous. The plague monks of Clan Pestilence are zealots utterly dedicated to the spread of corruption and decay in the name of the Great Horned One. These devout disciples of disease are unique amongst Skaven society in that they are fanatically committed to their clan and its purpose of creating the ultimate disease. Once this plague devastates all surface dwellers, the Skaven can rise up in the ruins and claim their proper inheritance, nothing short of the entire world. And the great horned rat will know who brought his children to their rightful and preordained ascendancy, and Clan Pestilence will sit over all and reign supreme. As the foul brethren march forward towards an enemy battle line, their chanting picks up its pace, and the plague monks seem to incite themselves into a terrible rage. In combat, plague monks hurl themselves into the fray with a fanatical ferocity, eager to bring death and destruction to their foes. They relentlessly attack with filth-encrusted blades, iron-tipped staves, or even their needle-sharp teeth. A plague monk's exposure to pestilence has rendered its toughened, boil-ridden skin immune to pain. The ability to shrug off crippling injury, combined with their near-hysterical zealotry, means that the only reliable way of stopping a plague monk attack is to wholly dismember them. Okay, on to the plague monks. I'm not sure whether or not to simply class these lads as Pestigor for simplicity's sake, or if they suit the army as actual Skaven. Either way, I like the models and have painted them in a suitably grimy style, in keeping with the rest of the army. Again, they are a unit of 16 in 4 ranks of 4 and led by a fat rat on a bigger rat. No idea what his name is, but he is metal and quite heavy indeed. Nurgle has a great hold of the Beastmen, and none are more dedicated to his worship than the Pestigor. Foul creatures of chaos, the Pestigor are decaying hulks of flesh, despised by even their own kin for their filth and the detritus they leave in their wake, yet admired in an odd kind of way, for they have reached a status amongst their brothers akin to that of greatness. They are tough and burly, often covering themselves in plate or chainmail armour, which make them all the harder to slay, whilst they wield rust-encrusted weapons as likely to split a man in two as to inflict horrific ailments to the few that survive. Pestigors are Nergalite Gorkin that rampage through the wilds of the Jade Kingdoms. They fight beside Rotbringers, the Skaven plague monks of Clan Pestilence, and other allies and servants of Grandfather Nurgle. Swollen and blistered with disease, beastmen of Nurgle swarm and breed in prodigious numbers. Their tribute to the Lord of Corruption takes many forms, although disgusting feasts of putrefied food and rather unwholesome refuse are frequent occurrences. No act of uncleanliness is too low for beastmen in Nurgle's service. From the consumption of plague victims to wallowing and bathing in filth, nothing is beyond them. Nurgle's beastmen are marked by the colours of disease and decay, often having sallow skin and jaundiced eyes. Their fur is usually brown, although its true colour is often hidden beneath layers of filth and dung. Beastmen of Nurgle are bloated individuals, pockmarked by disease. They are often marked by carefully cultured abscesses in the shape of Nurgle's runes. Their horns are twisted versions of Nurgle's own wide horns, many with suckered ends. The most favoured are marked by tears of Nurgle, oozing unhealthy secretions that drip from the eyes, nose, ears and mouth. The dedicated Pestigor are a mix of Citadel classics and more recent releases from the late 90s or early 2000s. They don't particularly match in sculpt style, so I've used a few of my collecting theory tenets to bring them together thematically, namely a strong colour scheme, matching bases and movement tray. They are led by a slug sorcerer made of resin. I believe he is some kind of Forge World model. I decided to give the bottom part of his tail a skirt to make him more slug-like. And the banner is a huge totem to Nurgle, covered in skulls and glorious filth. There we go, some lovely oxide effects and rust and all kinds of filth. We follow up the marvellous Pestigor with their mighty army standard bearer. He is a heavily converted metal Pestigor, toting a custom banner made from 3 washers glued together and mutated faces sculpted over the top. The banner pole is brass wire. His hat is a resin offcut from a Max Mini Plague Head. He has a Reaper miniature skeleton holding a skull. The Royal Mail Postal Goblin from the Lord of the Rings Goblin Town set, who is sitting on a metal toadstool. And finally, there is an armoured skeleton holding the end of the banner pole. I actually aim to build 3 more similarly styled miniatures dedicated to each of the remaining Chaos Gods. However, haven't got around to doing it yet. We follow the army standard bearer with one of the Skaven special characters. He wields a huge plague censer flail and has a mighty paunch to boot. A very nice little model, who is a perfect addition to any Clan Pestilence force or Nurgle themed army. Finally, we have Lord Skrulk, a powerful sorcerer with a plague censer staff and a Necronomicon, based on the Evil Dead version. Marvellous. Simply glorious. Simply glorious. Our last sojourn into Chaos for today is my Zangor from the Crocodile Games miniature company. They are mysterious Egyptian-styled Skeksis monsters wielding giant brass fell blades. And their standard bearer holds a totem entwined with an asp snake. Marvellous. Note the matching movement trays, which I got from Products for Wargamers, a custom MDF company that can make movement trays to your specifications. I highly recommend them. Marvellous. Well, that's just about all I have for you today. Join me next time for some more wargaming content. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.